gang. Let's get to it. So, there. And let's get into it. So, let's take the glasses off because I won't be able to see properly. Today, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do our normal weekly check-in, and then we'll go from there. Actually get everything set up professional, and then we can start seeing how this goes. So on today's agenda, what we're going to go through, we're going to go through kind of my new training block, just a little bit of a check-in for myself. As I do the check-in, you do the check-in, that's the rules. Joint thing here. So we'll do training check-in, mental health check-in, a little bit of a life check-in, and then we'll go into a little training section. Training section, we're going to talk about kind of the good parts of having an event coming up or a competition or something like that. And then we're going to go into, got to watch a main thing around some productivity. A little Hormozy video with Chris Williamson. Can you tell that I am any more of a bro than those two? But yeah, that's where we're gonna head for that. And then to finalize things, we're gonna do like a little section today on sleep, all things mental health, all things training related, and basically gonna drum home the same thing, which is we all need 7 hours sleep. To start with my little check-in, so basically, let me bring that there so I can actually see everything that's going on at the same time. If I pull you into here. So I'm still getting used to like how I set all of this up and make it actually so I can see it. There we go. So basically, this is the first week of a new block for me, training-wise. First week on basically like a 9-10 lead up towards the Efects Pros. It doesn't get released until 30th of October that we're in, but we're going to assume we're in because we're 11th currently. They take the top 20. It would actually be really good to do a little breakdown of the up-and-coming Efects. We could do a little section on that, so let's do a little section on that now. And then we'll go back to the check-up, like this week's check-in. So, events, upcoming events, what have they got? How do I find workouts for next year? 2026 workouts. Let's put you in here. Which one are you seeing? You're seeing the wrong one. You're seeing the wrong one? Let me reconnect this. There we go. So, this is what it's going to look like. So, Efects, for those who don't know it, is basically like, think CrossFit, think functional fitness, but think like without any of the skill. So Efects competitions, it's basically like CrossFit, basically like functional fitness. I don't even know if I can say CrossFit. Cross fit, because I know if the words are joined and you use it, they'll like pull you. So can I say cross fit? But it's a functional fitness workout. The way it works is you basically have a strength zone, you then have an endurance zone, and then you have the Metcon at the end. So this year's coming up, so teams, so we'll probably be going into the pros, but we'll have a look at all the different ones. The strength part of it is actually I really love this. It's a 1 rep max strict press, 3 rep max back squat, and a 5 rep max deadlift. So you have 18 minutes to get all of that in. The score is basically the total lifted by the pair of you. So if you go in as a pair, the total like weight that you both lift is the score that you get. And the way the leaderboards work, let's open up a leaderboard. So this isn't just so I can show you where we are, but we may as well, you know what I mean? Like, we're here, so we may as well kind of show it off. But when, we'll go to where we are. So the way it works is you get a total score for the strength, and that element itself gets ranked. So you get ranked in the strength section against everyone else in the strength section, and then you get basically points. Those points are correlated with your place. So we came 9th in the strength overall, which means that we got 530 kilos, so we came 9th in the strength part of it, which means we had 9 points. Because we came 22nd in the endurance and 22nd in the Metcon, you add all that up, that gives us 53. And as you can see, the ones who were at the leading came different in different places, but the points are the same thing, still all added up. So it does pale quite heavily to do well in one of these things. So not extremely well, but just better than the competition. Like if we could get to our strength up a little bit more, like a really good example for me is the 3, the 2nd, and the 19th. So it's the same pair that came kind of joint first in this, but because they came 3rd and 2nd in the endurance and in the strength, that means that like they just got such little points that bumps them up the leaderboard. So that's the way it works. So that being the strength component, really, really cool. Such a good little strength component that is. The 1 rep max strict press would be super hard, but that basically gets you enough weight on the bar, and then you could just add more for the back squat, and then you basically dump the bar, and then you can just go in straight into your deadlift. So warming up for that would be quite interesting. You then basically have like 10 minutes to refuel, so you have 10 minutes to basically, you go in, they will tell you the rundown of the next workout and how it's going to work, and then you go into and then once you've gone through the rundown, you then basically go into the endurance zone. So 22-minute time cap. Basically, the only difference is depending upon which category you choose. So there's a light version, an ethics version, and the pro version. And you basically, partner A will run while partner B rows, okay? So athlete A starts on the run, athlete B starts on the row. You swap every time an athlete completes it. So for the pros, we'll be doing a 1K run, and then you swap and get back onto the rowing machine. So your partner will be rowing that whole time. So then the joint distance that you guys have covered in that whole period, that is going to be that's going to be your score. So that is going to be gnarly, because it's basically a 22 minutes worth of endurance. So it's just a long conditioning piece basically, and you just need to be aerobically fit to be able to do that. You then get 30 minutes recovery. Now this is where things got fun. I'm just going to double check a minute to make sure that like my mic's all lined up. Give me 2 secs. We'll cut that bit out when we do the little segment. But anyway, you go into the recovery zone. The funny bit about the recovery zone is we went from the endurance last time, and we went straight into the recovery zone. They had those compression boots. Let's just say Jasper was looking at me as I was led out with these compression boots, literally like this, with these compression boots on, getting my legs pumped. Eating sweets, an absolute mess, and it took me the whole 30 minutes to recover, and then it was just right, we're going into the Metcon, we're going to survive. The plan is to be a little bit fitter as we go into it in the finals in December, but we'll see, seeing as I've got 4.5 minutes worth of work at me as we looked at that 5-minute attempt for the run. So hopefully that can be a little bit better if we can. The Metcon this year, I think your lower back is going to be an absolute bit. So if there is one part of your body that you need to make sure is conditioned, it's going to be your lower back, and your lower back, hamstrings, glutes. The row is going to be so bad because you've just done a deadlift. For me, low bar back squatting as well is going to make it even worse. 60 cal ski, again, all of this hinge in motion. You're going to go 60 ground to overhead. So basically, with the pros, it's jaw. With the lights, and I'm assuming with the normal ethics as well, it's a single arm. So basically a single arm dumbbell snatch, whereas with the pros it's a dual arm, so it's both arms at the same time moving. That's going to be rough. Again, hinging. A 60-meter sandbag carry. Now, all of this is split between the pair of you, but that doesn't mean a thing because you're just going to be sending it. 60-meter sandbag carry. The reason that's hard, glutes, lower back, hamstrings, all going to be nice and tight. You carry that. And then 60 box jump overs. Not as much on your lower back. The dumbbell walking lunges, with 20 kilos for the normal Efects, but for the pros, it's in a front rack position, which means you're going to be here. Again, that lower back's going to be taking a load. 60 burpee ball jumps, just in case you needed to do a little bit more of, just in case you're not sure how fit you are, we're going to make it even worse. And then we've got 60 cal on the skier again to finish. Sorry. It's a 25-minute time cap to complete it. I actually got no idea how long that's going to take. I'm not even going to try to explain. But that's the workouts for next year. And the way that it's going to work is, again, you get a score and you get an added total from the strength element, which gives you a placing within the leaderboard. And then you get a number of points based upon where you've placed. You then have the endurance zone, same thing applies, total distance, you get a scoring for where you place, and then the Metcon itself. Depending on how we do in the in the finals in December, will depend upon what we do next year, whether Jasper's going to go individuals or whether we're going to go as a pair. If we get on all right, I think like 7th place, anywhere between 1st and 7th. I say 7th because I was going to say 5th, but I know realistically if I'm like close to 5, I will want to kind of push for it to try and get in the top 5 next year. And the Efects competitions are just getting bigger and bigger. So if it is something you're interested in, say you like CrossFit, you like pushing yourself, but you don't like the skill elements, well, this is going to be for you. So, fun little swing element we've got going on now can stop, and we're going to go into the check-in for me, basically. So, this week, again, we've got the first training block for the Efects, so I've been kind of getting into the swing of that. A little bit more volume, a lot more volume, a lot more conditioning, and just getting used to the movements still, kind of trying to improve the movements for the Metcon. Strength will maintain, which would be good. Should hopefully squat 200 for 5, which would be great. And then the strict press, nice to be up to 70. If I could match 40 on the pull-ups, I'd be super, super happy. But that's been great, actually. That's been really, really fun to try and to start training for that a little bit more, another miles out of the way. Still running twice a week. Like my split at the moment, we were going to go through it, but again, I'm going to leave that for another stream. So I don't want it to be too heavy today. So yeah, it's been good. From training standpoint, it's been a really good intro week into the block, and then we're just going to be pushing on from here. It's going to be a tough 5 weeks because volume's up a lot. And this week's is an intro block to kind of get me used to the volume. Next week, from a mental health standpoint, mental health check-in, it's been up and down, basically. It's been the same normal dread that I go through every week, which is I'm failing, there's so much to do and not enough time. But that is literally going to be what it's going to be like forever, which is fine. And just making changes at the moment to prioritize what I need to prioritize. So I think one of the things that people get wrong, I say people, I mean me, is I prioritize, I don't necessarily prioritize the things that are stressing me out, which is something I think I should do. What I mean by that is I don't necessarily go, okay, I'm going to prioritize making sure that, like, if I'm getting poor sleep, because we're going to go on sleep later on, and that's really affecting me from an emotional standpoint, it's really affecting me from a training standpoint, just performance in all aspects of my life. If I'm not prioritizing that, then, like, that is one thing that can give me a shit ton of rewards and can really sort me out and really help me. So I think that's a thing that I'm going to try to do quite a lot of, is like prioritize what I need to prioritize. And I've basically been going through this week and just going, what are the things which are really affecting my mental health? Like if I think about myself and I think about my negative self-talk, what are the things that keep coming up and down for me? And the main things that keep coming up are, like, again, sleep's a massive one. My financial situation is another one. Not that I'm in a bad financial state, but like I think we all have financial goals. Um, and because of how up and down this year's been, I've not really focused on that too much this year. So it's kind of like, okay, I want to get myself into a good place as I go forward with that. And then it was just going like, okay, well, like, what am I spending money on? Like, it sounds really silly and it seems really simple, but just spending a bit of time to be like, what are the main things affecting my mental health? Um, and then being able to just go, okay, well, what can I put in place to stop that and change that? Hence the glasses. And obviously, I've got lights all around me at the moment, so I probably do need to put them back on at some point. And you'll see me probably put them on when we go into this video. But yeah, it's just like, what are the things that you can kind of prioritize a little bit? Um, and what can you do? The thing about this week from a life standpoint is that like it's actually been pretty good. I've had some good conversation with mates. I've had really good time with some mates actually. Client work's been really good, and yeah, potentially moving in with a friend in January, which would be super super cool because that means that like I'll have my own space, obviously with my mate, but like that gives me space kind of to be on my own, live my own life, and feeling like I'm a bit more capable. Moving back in with my parents since going through the breakup early in Feb, like there is just something about that step back which feels like a step back, and it's not like it's sound, but it's just that little element of it that kind of is a good thing that I'm looking forward to doing as we go forward. Um, but that's my check-in. So out of 10, I'm about a 7. Make sure you check in with yourself, and then let's have a look from a training standpoint. So we're going to go into a new section. This new section, we're going to talk about training. One thing that's helped my training, one thing that's made my training worse. If you are someone who struggles with motivation when you go into the gym, or it feels a little bit pointless, this is where having a goal or a competition or an event coming up can be really good. It could be a 5K park run, it could be a tough mudder, it could be a powerlifting competition, it could be a holiday because you may want to get fitter and look better for a holiday. But having an event or something that you're training towards keeps your training at the forefront. So this is part of the rule of 100 that I've used with clients previously, which is you have a goal for your body weight when you've got body compositional goals. You have a goal for your body weight, but you also have a goal for your training. And the reason is because when you go in to train, you need to be motivated to do it, and this is going to help you with the motivation basically. And that's something that I'm bringing in for myself, which is I'm trying to make sure that I've always got something on the horizon. I've always been the same, need something on the horizon. Um, and that is just because it gives me structure. And I think this is why I like little goals from a financial standpoint, from a business standpoint, is because your goals dictate your actions. So if I set myself a training goal for the Efects, well, the actions that I take and the training that I do will be dictated by whatever the competition is. So that Efects comp that I've just we're going for in December means that my training is structured towards that. So that means that every session has a point to it. And then this is basically just to deal with the fact that I can't have anything being meaningless. Everything needs to have some level of meaning, and that's what it is for me. So that's what I would get like you to think about if you find training kind of meaningless and pointless. Because I know that there's been periods of time. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on because this is hurting my eyes. I'm gonna have periods of time where like training is in a lull. But if you are someone who struggles with motivation when you train, pick something to do. Like I've had a client and we've had a conversation about this recently because one of the things we were talking about was the fact that he struggles with not having something, and the thing that he's now training for is towards a triathlon. The glare on that's gonna be too much. I'm gonna have to be blind for you. He's training towards an Ironman. He's picked one for next year. Like he did a half marathon, then he's doing a marathon for Christmas Eve, and then he's got an Ironman at the end of next year, and then there'll be events scattered throughout that. Like nothing gives you motivation for training and like an event that you are training for that you have to show up for. This is something that I will always have, which is why the ethics event is going to be really good and why I take some time after that to review what I want to do. One of my clients is really good at this every year. What events are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And I just think that if you're someone who struggles with that motivation to keep going, just pick something and just start training towards it. And pick a random thing, because like at the start it can be really small, which is like, oh, I want to be able to deadlift my body weight. Like that is a goal, but we put a date on it. And the reason we put a date on it is because then that gives you pressure, but good levels of pressure to show up and to train and to get the workouts done. So then when it comes to that deadlift test, you know it's important, and you know that the training leading up to it is important. And I think this is something that we can all get stuck in, is the monotony and the groundhog day of da-da, 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 which is why I like something in advance. One of my clients had struggled with this for a while, and then picking the goal to try and be able to run a half marathon has meant that her training's just gone through the roof. Like, she's so much more committed. She doesn't miss a run. She enjoys training more. It's way more fun because there's an event coming up. So I just think like having something like that can be a really good shout, and it can just be something minimal. It could be little challenges with the gym. I'm going to do a like an erg triathlon where I do a row, ski and bike, and you pick the distances and you train for that. It could be I'm going to run a 5K. It could be I'm going to bench press a certain amount of weight, like whatever it's going to be, but just pick something. On the similar note, one thing that has made training worse for me, or something that I have struggled with, is not having enough time between comps or between blocks. And what I mean is not having enough time for me to recover enough to then be able to push hard for the next block. We talk about deloads a lot in training, and deloads are the reason we have a deload is because deloads mean that you don't need a deload. If you think about a service on your car, the reason you have a service on your car is so that things don't go wrong. And it's a similar thing with deloads. If you just wait for your car to go wrong and then you fix everything, you could cause a lot more damage to your car. And it's a similar thing with deloads. If you program correctly, you should have periods of time where your training load, so the weight on the bar or the amount of volume, so the number of sets that you are doing is way, way down. And that is because then your body can recover, you can recover, and then you can go again. From a mental standpoint, a motivation standpoint, you also need that time away from it. Coming towards any competition is when your training is going to be the hardest, and it's when you're most likely to not want to do the competition. So anytime you're working towards a goal, the last few weeks running up to it, it's not I can't wait for the competition. It's I can't wait for this to be over. And that's because you're training super hard. You've been training for it for however long, and it's just a grind at that point. And that's absolutely fine. We all kind of go through that. But that's why I'm suggesting that everyone has some kind of goal, but then has periods of time within that or after the event, week, 2 weeks. Like if you looked at old school bodybuilders, they would take like months off. If you look at athletes in the off season, they take months off. Like they'll still be training and doing bits, but they won't be training anywhere near as hard. And this is the same thing, is we need to have some time off to be able to reset and go again. Otherwise, your body just gets cooked. Which leads me on to my mini segment, which is about the ultra marathon that my friends did last night, which was a 50k ultra round a running track, which was super cool. They actually originally set out for the goal to be 100k, but that was kind of, let's call it a lofty goal, and one that they needed to humble them to be able to go, okay, this is harder than we thought. And the reason that's good is because like you all need humbling. We all need humbling, gang. There is times when I did them all, again, you just need to know that you're not as good as you think you are sometimes. And that's going to pay dividends as you go forward, because then you know what it actually takes to actually move forward. So ultra marathons are basically about your body holding out. It's about pacing. It's about basically looking after yourself. And I think the one thing that will stop anyone from being able to do an ultra is probably like, I don't really understand how tapers and deloads work for ultras like as much as I do for normal running events, because normal running event, for example, say you've got a marathon coming up, you may take a 2-week taper, and the week, so say you've got like, you take 14 days out from your event, you'll start to taper, which means reducing the total volume to bring down fatigue to make sure your performance is good on the day. So 14 days out, you'll start your taper. The week before that, so if you think like 21 days out, that week of that training block will probably be your peak volume, and it'll be one of your hardest weeks. So then we just drop down, like the next week, we drop 30% of the volume off, and the week after we may drop 50% of that volume off as we lead up into the marathon. For ultras, I don't know how it works yet. I just wonder, like the guy who did it, Marsh, did the 50k, but the week before he did a marathon, and it was a trails marathon. It was brutal, so that may have like basically just took it out of his body too much. And this is part of the learning process with stuff like this. It's just that we aren't as superhuman as we think we are, and setting yourself lofty goals is really good. Like they ran it from 6 p.m. till midnight, round a track. It's 125 laps of a track, like 50k. It's definitely not something to be disappointed about. It's an amazing achievement, and I think what I learned, because the thing that which made him stop was just, I mean, Sam didn't have the legs because he hasn't really trained for it, and Marsh, this is mad, hasn't really trained for it, still around 50k, mental. And Marsh just, I think, was too fatigued from the week before. But you learn, and then it's like, okay, well, next time we do it a different way. But yeah, it was really cool. I'll have a proper video coming out about that soon. But that's the training section. It's kind of like, have a goal, work towards something. Ultra marathons are hard. It's kind of the summary. So we're going to go into the main section for this video. We're going to review a video between Chris Williamson and Alex Ramosi. The video is titled, "You Can Have Everything You Want in 90 Days." So let's have a little look. Let's see what it's about. We'll go big screen, and then we'll just move me around if we need to. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Instead of spending time getting in the mood to work, just start working. Confront the work. People think they need perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition.
I'm married to that. I love that. Because if you think, like I obviously am somebody who always wants to optimize how much work I do per unit of time. And so I was, there was definitely times earlier in my life I was really romanticized by these.
You have a productivity hack, an easy productivity hack. Instead of spending time getting in the mood to work, just start working. Confront the work. People think they need perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition.
I'm married to that. I love that. Because if you think, like I obviously am somebody who always wants to optimize how much work I do per unit of time. And so I was, there was definitely times earlier in my life I was really romanticized by these like very extensive morning routines and supplement rituals and like all this stuff of mental masturbation around the work that needed to be done. But when I looked at 2 hours later and nothing had actually gotten done, the moment you begin working is when your output per unit of time goes up. And so that makes
the one thing that I really do enjoy about Hormozy stuff is he defines words and defines things in such a way which is like, there's always a kind of goal. So there's always like, this is what I'm trying to achieve. So like then, for example, he was like, when you start working is when your unit of time or the unit of time for the amount of work you get done goes up. The reason, like, he's basically saying is that if the goal is to increase the amount of like how much he can produce within the smallest amount of time, if he can get more out of those hours that he's working, that like just because he's got this morning routine that's supposed to get him ready, it doesn't actually affect anything as much as just doing the work does. I just love that like he defines almost everything that he talks about.
The single greatest hack that you can have for everything else that you do in work. Because the thing is, when you start working, you start getting in the mood to work, right? Like everything else is procrastinating around the work that you think you should do. But like I have noticed, for me at least, I have some big mental tasks, you know what I mean? Like big content piece or big thing that you need, like, it's going to take real mental effort. It takes me like 5 minutes of actually being in it to then get a little bit of a lay of the land to then get into it. But I used to take hours to delay to start the first 5 minutes. And so my time compression of when I thought I should start doing something and when I started doing it over time is just compressed to the point where it's like the moment I think that I need to start doing it, sometimes I just start it, because then what happens, I get this open loop. And so rather than complete work at because a lot of people are like, I want to complete it at this really nice clean point. Stop halfway through the sentence, because it'll drive you mad.
That's the Zygonic effect in full work. Do you know this story, Zygonic?
I don't.
Oh, wow. This is
well, that's way more than I do.
That's what you shut up. That's what you're leveraging here. So the The Zeigarnik effect was a study originally done on servers in restaurants.
Okay.
And they realized, you've ever been at a restaurant and a server comes up and stands with their hands behind the back and go, what would you like tonight, sir? And you say, I'll have the lobster roll and a glass of red wine and a blah, blah. And you're like, this motherfucker's not, he hasn't got a pen or a pad of paper. He's crazy. And then they go off. And what they realized was servers in restaurants were unbelievably good at being able to recall exactly what a table's order was while that table's order was still open. So guys in table 16, they want to swap the peas out for a little bit of extra rice, and they're doing this thing. Yeah. As soon as the table was closed, they couldn't remember anything. So this is an open loop, closed loop system, and it's built into the brain. The brain abhors an open loop. It's the same reason why Netflix cliffhangers at the end of every episode guarantee that you'll watch the next one, because you can't bear the fact. There's even novels in the dark romance genre that make guarantees that there won't be cliffhangers. They put it on the front or the back of the book, and they say no cliffhangers guaranteed, which is, people have so much distaste for it that it's a selling point that you get.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's like, if something's not finished, then all we do is think about it, which is really interesting, because like, I think that can go into a lot of things, really. That goes into life in general, which is like, not only from a work standpoint, I know that if I haven't finished a piece of work that I need to get done, it is all I'm thinking about. And this is one of the things that I've changed. Like, if we're talking productivity, I now have my days in a way which is like, if I'm doing client work on a day, so on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, big client days for me, lots of PT, lots of coaching, I won't try to do my bigger pieces of work, any content, any working on the book. Like, I won't try to do that, because if I'm like halfway through writing something and then I have to go and PT or coach someone, like, I'm coaching this person while thinking about the book that I'm writing. And it's just like, that in itself, to me, is just so frustrating, partly because I'm not giving that person a good service, but also because all I can do is think about that book. And it's like, it's interesting that you're saying leave that open. I think like, you could leave things open if it's something you're going to wake up tomorrow and get on with straight away. Like, I have to make notes as to what I'm going to do tomorrow. So like, if I'm working on a piece of work and I haven't finished it, I have to go through and go like, okay, well, tomorrow or Wednesday or Friday, I'm going to do that, and that to kind of help me carry on. Because I think like, if I do this type of thing, because it's 2 or 3 days by the time I get back to doing that piece of work, I actually am probably worse, because I go to do that piece of work and I forgot what I was doing and where my thought process was. So like, I talk about this in another video about creativity, which is like giving myself the ability to just be creative and not putting time constraints on that, because then I can just work and be creative for as long as I need to be creative. And the only thing that normally stops me is sleep. So it's like, I just go to bed. So it's like, this is, I think, works really well if you are getting up straight away tomorrow and you are working on that thing again.
The closure at the end of it. Yeah. And finishing halfway through a sentence.
Sorry.
Reduces the activation energy required to begin that sentence the next day. Fine. That you get the closure at the end of it. Yeah. And finishing halfway through a sentence reduces the activation energy required to begin that sentence the next day, and it keeps it in your mind too overnight. So
this is what I mean. If it's the next day, it makes sense. I don't think it makes sense if you have to do a piece of work and then come back to it 3 or 4 days later. I think like, you have to have something to prompt you into where your brain was going. Like with anything that's creative, I think anything that is like a brain numbing task, bit of admin thing that you have to do, which doesn't take your focus, doesn't take creativity and concentration, like something else, like writing a book or whatever it would. I think this could be a really good way to do things.
I think, yeah, whether you've stumbled on it or whether you knew about it, you've managed to leverage a pretty powerful piece of psychology there.
Sick.
Going back to the work thing, another one from you that I absolutely adore. It just takes work. Shitloads and shitloads of work. Every time I try and dress it up or cut a corner, I get brutally reminded the work just needs doing. The work doesn't care who you are. It just cares that it gets done.
I'm actually going to reverse quote David Goggins on this one. But I love this quote that he has, which he says, "There's no shortcuts for you, David," or "There's no shortcuts for you, Goggins." I heard him say that, and I just love that as a refrain, which is that a lot of people look for a shortcut. But the idea that you say, like, they're not for you, you don't get to use them, you are immune to shortcuts. I just love it because then it just further shortcuts the path to the work that needs to get done. And I wrote that tweet on my, I don't know, 11th run of this presentation that I'm doing, because that's a recent one.
Yep.
And so it was like 11 o'clock at night. And so right now I'm working triple shifts, which is not common for me. I usually do 2, not 3. So for me, a normal work day is like, I wake up, I start working at 6 or 7, and then I go until about 6-ish. So it's like 10 to 12 really concentrated hours work. And that I can do 6.5 days a week. I usually take Saturday afternoons off. And it's really just because at that point I can't work anymore and my brain's stew, and then I get my 1/2 day and then I'm good to go. And I'm rearing to kick on, to work on Sundays. My triple shift is I go to dinner and I come back at 7:30, and then I work from 7:30 until 11:30 or 1 or whatever. Right. And when I'm putting in triple shifts is when I know I'm like really gassing it. And that's when I'm like repeatedly doing 16, 17 a day of actual productive work. And I hear the same thoughts.
And that's the thing that he was going on about at the start, which is something that I definitely get stuck into, which is like, how much work are you actually doing when you say you're working compared to what you're actually getting done? Like, there's times where I say I'm doing work and I'm probably procrastinating. And I think this is I suppose this is the difficulty of owning your own business, is the sense of like learning how OBS works to stream is work. Learning about training to some degree is work for me. And I could go to start a task and realize I don't know 4 or 5 different things. So I end up diving deep into those things, and it's been 2 hours and I haven't done the thing I started doing. Like, I think this is the thing of not having my phone in my room when I work, or having blockers on my phone, or like having my headphones on is my biggest one. If I put my headphones into work, for some reason, it just lasers me in. And I think there's something within that. And I don't know if it's similar for this, in the sense of like, it's kind of, there is just the work that needs to be done, and it's just about getting to start it as quickly as possible and actually working. Like he said, like 16 hours of productive work. That's a lot of work, man, to be like honed in on. And I do think you probably get used to it. And I do think if a lot of it's creative work, then it makes sense if you're in the flow of things. Like, and everyone's so different, and this guy's on the extreme. And there is something like in outliers like this, is like, Hormose's advice is amazing. Like, genuinely, if you own a business and you're trying to improve it, like, just consume every piece of content that he's ever done. Just go do his 3 courses and you'll already be better and know more about business. And it's kind of like, but just know that there is a caveat, which is like, he gives his advice from his point of view, and only use it if it makes sense. So doing a triple shift like this may not make sense to you because you have a wife and you have kids and you've got 3 other jobs that you're trying to do. Like, it may not make sense. So like, every bit of advice you see on the internet, just take it with a pinch of salt, or at least use the context of your own life to kind of put it around it.
That everyone does, which is like, it's not going to matter. Like, it's fine. It's good enough. Like, I hate that. Like, it makes me sick to even say that. Right. Because the thing that I like, David Goggins, right. He's got like, there's no shortcuts for you. I would say the one that I have 2 that are like my internal ones. One that is probably the most common is, I will do what is required. And this work needs doing. And there's just no way around it. And it's just looking at the face of the work, and it's like smiling back at me like, no one else is going to do it. And like, I love that one. Like, when we're recording content in the early days, we were doing like 100 shorts every time we did it. And it was direct to camera. And it was the only time I could fit it in with all the portfolio stuff that we're doing. And so it was always like, I will do what's required. And that's been a really helpful refrain for me when I'm confronted with, especially when you know what needs to get done. And the second one is, but I'll know. And so like, even if it does go well, and even if everyone else says it's great, but I'll know. And it'll then rob me of all of the joy of all of those moments in that experience, because I'll know that I could have done better. And
which is that open loop thing he's talking about. It's like if you know that there's more you could have done, that's like, I think that's the same for everyone, right? It's like everyone feels the same. If you know you didn't leave it all on the table, it's your own self-doubt which is going to kill you and eat away at you. Like, I think that's the thing that I've always struggled with. It, like, not necessarily training, but work-wise massively. Like, it's funny, like when I spoke at the start about the in the mental health section about attacking the parts, attacking the things which are affecting my mental health the most, and actually coming up with solutions to those problems and not just ignoring them, is where I get the biggest returns and improvements on my mental health. Which is the same as this, which is basically the work needs to be done and you can't ignore it, and you have to know that you've done the things you should have done, because then you'll leave yourself alone. Because like, I mentally torment myself. If you're the same, very similar to this, you might feel very similar, which is you need to know that you've done everything you could. And from a training standpoint, from a work standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, all three things are the same. And these are the things that I talk to myself about the most. If there's something that I'm not doing with my mental health, I beat myself up about it all the time, which is probably one of the things that I need to deal with in therapy. If I know that there is a part of me from a training standpoint who didn't do a session or didn't work as hard, that'll play on me. If there is a part of me which knows that I decided to not do the things that I said I was going to do from a work perspective and do something else, I just beat myself up for it. The problem is you then stop trusting yourself and stop trusting that you can do and be the person you say you are. If you think that there is a direct correlation between who you are and who you think you are. So that's, and who you think you are is basically what you do. Because if you say you're going to do something and you do it, then it's very easy to trust that you can trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. But if I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, then I can't trust that when I say I'm going to do something in the future, that thing is going to happen. And this is where, before you, if you've got trust issues with your partner, you want to look inwards and go, do I trust myself? Because if I don't trust myself, how could I possibly trust anyone else? How could I possibly trust that that person says they love me and they mean it if I don't trust the things that I say? And that's one of, like, yeah, this is the mental torment and these open loops and closing these down by being the type of person who does the things that they say they're going to do, I think is really important.
Thing is like, to quote myself from earlier, like, I've never regretted working harder, ever, not once. And some people are like, on your deathbed, you're gonna, like, no, because I lived every moment of my day doing what I wanted to do. And I remember I had a boss when my first boss after college. She said this thing. I had a particularly good weekend, and she said, I'm pretty sure happiness is stringing as many of those days in a row as you possibly can. And although I hated the job, that piece of advice has actually been probably has been my blueprint for how to live, which is like, my birthday looks the same as my Tuesdays, which looks the same as my Sundays.
You know what the original name pool for this podcast was? It's the only time in history I've done branding my entire adult life, and with club nights, all you're doing is coming up with brands. Paradiso, oh, it's tropical, there'll be a flamingo. Skint, oh, it's a cheap night, it's for people to get fingered in the corner. Like, all I did was branding, right? I was the branding guy. I'm pretty good at copywriting. All I did was branding. The one time I've had divine inspiration, 3 a.m, wake up with the name, was Modern Wisdom. The one time out of every business, every night, every brand I've ever come up with, that was the one time. But on the list of the others, Mind and Matter was one of them. But the other one was a quote from Tim Ferriss. It's called Crushing a Tuesday. And he said that what you should aim for in life is for your average Tuesday. Not the spectacular one-time private jet with the friends to go for the whatever. Not the UFC power slap launch party with staring at the back of Dan Bilzerian's dirty mullet.
I think this is, for me, this is my whole life philosophy with my work and my training. I think from the outside, my life can look very boring to people that don't understand what I do. Um, like families are always going to be the worst of this. Families really do tend to struggle because they, from a good perspective, and I suppose this is a point on self awareness to some degree, which is self awareness comes in four blocks, and there's a part of you that you know and everyone else knows about you. So there is the awareness around who you are that you know and someone else knows. There's the parts of you that only you know, right? And then there's the parts of you that only other people know. And I think that's what your family see, is they see things that you're missing out on or that you don't see or you're not doing way easier than what you do because you're laser focused on what you are doing. So, which means that when you decide to live your life in a certain way, they are going to see that as not necessarily balanced or healthy. So they'll make comments on it. But this is the whole thing, is I want every day to be like my average Tuesday because my average Tuesday includes everything that I want in it. And for me, that is my work, my training, socializing to some degree, which I get through my job, and feeling like I've accomplished something on the day. I've got to finish the day being like, I've accomplished something. And even if that is my to-do list, like I set my to-do list at the start of the day, I just want to get that done by the end of the day, and then I feel great. Like if every Tuesday looks like that, I mean, like at the moment, obviously I don't come home to a partner, but that is obviously would be within there, is to like spend time with someone I love. And I do that now with friends and family. So it's kind of like, it's still there. And I think you deciding your path, because I don't think everyone can have this. I don't think everyone can have their average Tuesday being including everything you want, or at least not all of the things you want, because I think to some degree, if you work a 9 to 5, or you work a lanyard job, or you work on construction and you're not necessarily working your dream, but that gives you the money that you need to then be able to go and do the things you enjoy, I think is amazing, because I think you've got a very different system, which is I have this work bit and then this play bit, whereas being self-employed or doing things you're passionate about or trying to chase, like, do a job that you love and enjoy, means that all I do is my job, which I love and enjoy, but it means that my work and play are mixed, and it means that I don't get a break from what I do. I'm always thinking about it, and it's got a lot of pressure within it, which means it can lose some of that joy along the way. And I just think that, like, if you are someone in a 9 to 5, the way you could hack this is to actually just go, and this is something I get all my clients to do, or at least like when we have the conversations, I suggest to people, is you start your day with something you want to do and you end your day with something you want to do. You want to wake up in the morning and you want to do something for yourself before you do something for your boss or for someone else. And the reason is because if you have 8 hours in your day where you're working for someone else, you don't have to be working for yourself before that, if you're not driven to do that. But if you love something, you love reading, or you love painting, or you love going for walks, or you love training, doing that before you actually start your day job, I think could be a really good hack, because you then do your work within the day, but you start your day with something you actually want to do, and then you end your day with something you want to do as well.
Like, not that. You want your average Tuesday to look the way that you want most of your life to do.
And when I think about the days that I look back on at the end of my day and think like today was a good day, invariably it's the same few things. It's I worked very hard on something that I felt was worth doing. I worked out, and I spent time with people that I enjoy being around. If I do those three things, I had a good day. And so that's been...
I think, like, for Alex, is based upon everything he said, and I obviously don't know, like, work's probably up there for him. Like, for me, work still is a means to an end, in the sense of, like, I want to build a business which then can give me a life that I can then spend with the people I love. Like, the connection for me, I think, is up there. I'm in this real sticky place at the moment where I feel like half of me wants to focus everything on work, and then half of me really wants connection with someone. And I think that's always the balance that I'm in. And I think, like, I'm just having to really be good at putting myself in a season of do the work now, do the work now, do the work now, because I'm probably, unless someone's got a very similar lifestyle or understands it or is self-employed or whatever, like, the way I live my life is very niche in the sense of like I will get up at 5 a.m. I go into the gym for 6 a.m. and I don't leave till 8 p.m. I train within that, but like I just work. And then on days that I'm not in the gym is the only times I get to work on the business. So I come back and I sit here on my laptop till 7, 8 o'clock and I work. And Sunday night, I'm sat here doing this. Like to some degree, this is work. Like, but the connection to me is probably more important than the work, but I'm in a season where the work has to be the priority. So if anything, they're on the same level. And that's something I've learned this year massively, is how important connection is to me. So, yeah.
In my, Alex's simple blueprint for doing things, and I think the point that you were making earlier, I think it's worth hitting on again, which is just that like most people's definition of work is a negative one, which is why they abhor it, which is also why they misunderstand so many people who quote, I'll say quote here, are successful or ahead of them or whatever, is that both people, one person says the word work and the other person hears the word pain. And so the first step to like becoming more successful is understanding the language that the people who are successful are using. They're actually defining the word differently. And so whatever that thing is that you actually enjoy doing, where you lose track of time when you're in it, even if it's challenging, but usually it is challenging, right? Like it's not easy because then it's boring, right? Yeah. Which is also why the uncertainty thing is so key, right? To not knowing if it's gonna work or not. You are gonna work though, either way. Is that the people who are quote addicted to work make it easy to be addicted to work because they do things worth doing. And I think a lot of it is coming down to making sure that you take the few precious seconds that we have to do the few things that are worth doing for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Basically, just decide what you want to do and do it. No, but I think in review of that whole video, like the open loop thing is quite interesting. Obviously, if you've got if you have a job or a creative endeavor which you can get back into the next day, then yes, leave that loop open so you get straight back into that thing. But I think if you've got multiple days between that task, it may not work as well. I think the work needing to be done is just about being really clear with yourself on what you need to do, what you're not doing, and what you can do. And then I would probably say just make sure from the average Tuesday thing and spending your time wisely that every day has something in it that you love. If there are a couple of things that you love in life, just make sure that your day has those things in. Like I love my morning coffee, so I always have it. I look forward to it in the morning, and it seems really small, but it's a big thing for me. I really enjoy that. Like I really enjoy. It sounds funny, but like being organized, because when I'm unorganized, I get stressed. So creating a to-do list, making sure that my week's organized, like I love that. Like today I ticked off so many things and I put it all on a to-do list, and it just makes me feel good. Like just have something in your day which is the things you enjoy, which kind of eases it. From a mental health standpoint, I try to identify what you're struggling with and what could be like the big things which you could change, which then allow you to improve your mental health, like in a bigger manner than just ignoring it or than trying to do some other little thing. Like if there's one big thing that you need to do, your intuition's probably not wrong, so probably do that thing. But yeah, I really do like that. I'm a massive fan of Chris Williamson and Hormozy. If you're going to look up to anyone, I think it certainly could be those two. So that is our main section on that. What I'm gonna do, I don't know if this is gonna work, so I'm gonna kind of just chat at you for a little bit while I try and sort this out. But what I want to try and do is, I have a few little things. Don't play straight away. Good. It's quiet. Can I log in? I am logged in. What I want to do is look at all my saved posts, because I want to. Let's just review a couple of things. The problem with stuff like this is that the music on Instagram can be anything. And I could get copyright struck. Yeah, I need to look into that. I need to look into that before we do anything. Basically, I've saved loads of reels that I want to go through because they're hilarious, and I want to kind of like do them on stream, but we'll do that another time. Let's just go into the next section. I feel like I'm ready to go. I'll grab another water and then we can get rocking on this bit. So, on this next section, I'm basically just gonna like go through a couple of articles because I want to talk about in the mental health section. Is going to be about sleep basically, and its effects on your mental health and your sleep effects on training and stuff like that as well. So let's kind of go through this article together. We'll see what it says, and just we'll learn a little bit. This is our learning segment, which we're going to do together. I am going to put my glass on for this one though, because you don't necessarily need to see me, because I'm going to be nice and small in the corner. So we're looking at National Heart, Lung and Blood Institute. I think if there's anywhere to get some information from, this might be a good one. There's also some bits on the NHS which we can look at as well, because the website for the NHS is actually quite good because it's quite like easy to follow. So basically, how do I know if I'm not getting enough sleep? Sleep deficiencies can cause you to feel very tired during the day. You may not feel refreshed or alert when you wake up. Sleep deficiency also can interfere with work, school, driving, and social function. How sleepy you feel during the day can help you figure out your symptoms. So you might be sleep deficient if you often feel like you could doze off while sitting, reading, watching telly. Guilty. Sitting still in a public place, such as a movie theatre, meeting, or classroom. Guilty. Riding in a car for an hour without stopping. I don't know if I'll end up in prison for saying this. Gonna carry on. But guilty. Sitting and talking to someone, depends how interesting they are, I suppose. Sitting quietly after lunch and sitting in traffic for a few minutes. Like, these things can make you quite sleepy. If you have problems learning, focusing or reacting, or making decisions, solving problems, remembering things, managing your emotions and behaviors, coping and changing, you may take longer to finish tasks. So being sleep deprived just affects everything. So sleep and your health. The way you feel when you're awake depends in part on what happens while you're sleeping. During sleep, your body is working to support healthy brain function and support physical health. In children and teens, sleep also helps support growth and development. The damage from sleep deficiencies can happen in such an instant, not like a car crash. Can happen in an instant, such as a car crash, or it can harm you over time. For example, ongoing sleep deficiency can raise your risks of some chronic health problems. It can also affect how well you think, react, work, learn, and get along with others. Mental health benefits. So, this is the main bit that I want to kind of talk about. Sleep helps your brain work properly. While you're sleeping, your brain is getting ready for the next day. It's forming new pathways and helping you learn and remember information. Studies show that a good night's sleep improves learning and problem-solving skills. Sleep also helps you pay attention, make decisions, and be creative. So, like, if you are trying to be productive, sleep's going to be one of the biggest things to help you with that. Studies have also shown that sleep deficiency changes activity in some parts of the brain. If you're sleep deficient, you have trouble making decisions, solving problems, controlling your emotions. So, like, that's the big one for me, is the, like, controlling your emotions. So I know for a fact, like, if I am tired, I'm just way more emotional. And that normally comes down to just, like, I'm just fatigued. Like, the only problem with streaming on a Sunday night, but I'm kind of actually really loving it, especially tonight, is that I kind of finish this and I'm just wired. So I need to, like, settle down. So I'm going to have a sleep routine. I'll talk a little bit about my sleep routine, because then we can break this segment up a little bit. And I'll put this on my head so you can see my eyes. But my sleep routine is blue light blocking glasses after a certain time when I'm staring at screens. But it's also having a chamomile tea. I normally would have one while I stream, to help settle me down. And my Lumi lamp's the only lamp I go by while I read. So I read as I go to sleep because that helps me settle down. Try and put my phone away. The one interesting thing is, sleep can affect your mental health, but your mental health could affect your sleep because you're going to be grabbing, like, you might be using your phone or screens as a distraction, because it can be quite difficult for you to kind of settle down. So I have found soundscapes seem to help me quite a lot, but reading is the other one. So, like, my brain's focused on reading. Some soundscape or, like, some, like, just kind of, like, frequency noise to help me sleep does seem to help me settle down and kind of doze off a little bit if I'm, like, really hyper or active and focused on stuff. Just like that winding down bit and just making sure everything's ready to go, I think is really important. Like sleep deficiency in this has also been linked to depression, suicide, and risk-taking behavior. I can definitely see it. I just think that we don't think properly when we're sleep deprived. I know, like, I want to say in prisoner of war camps, they use sleep deprivation because as a way to break people because it works, and having little sleep is going to mess with you more than anything. It doesn't really go into much more on that article, so let's go into the NHS one to see what it says. So I understand the sleep problems include insomnia. What does it mean, insomnia? So how many hours sleep do I actually need? So it can affect all of these different things. So how many hours of sleep do I actually need? A healthy adult usually needs around 7 to 9 hours sleep. However, age, health, personal circumstances can affect how much sleep you get or need. Plus, some people naturally sleep more than others. Teenagers and children, sleep 8 to 16 hours. So signs and symptoms of sleep problems. Maybe you find it difficult to fall asleep. You lie awake for long periods of time at night. And this is why, like, having a sleep and having like a wind down routine is really important. Also, having periods of time within or having the same sleep and wake cycle is also going to really help you when it comes to sleeping well and getting better at sleeping. So like having the same time you go to bed, or roughly same time you wake up, gets your circadian rhythm and gets everything in check, which means your body knows when to wake up. Like I got to bed at like 1 a.m. last night because the boys were doing the ultra marathon and I was supporting them do that. So I hardly got to sleep at 2 o'clock by the time everything finished. And I still woke up at like 7 this morning because this is just my natural body's wake time. But that means that normally I'd be in bed by 9:30, 9 o'clock. So it's kind of like my body's knows when to wake up. You wake up several times during the night. You wake up early or unable to get back to sleep. So waking up several times for the night. So lying awake for long periods, like let's actually go through these because signs and symptoms of sleep problems. And let's go through some solutions for it. So if you find it difficult to fall asleep, then a solution for you could be having all of the things that I've said previously. So blue light blocking glasses if you are on screens, but trying to get screens away from you 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. This is where reading comes in really well because you can read before you go to sleep and you're not looking at your phone, you've just got a book in front of you. I use a Lumi lamp, which means that the light itself can be a dimmer light, almost like an orangey light, which kind of brings, same thing, I don't have the blue lights going on. And it also has a sunset setting, which means it gets darker over like a half-hour period. Simply having that set up means that I may find it easier, and having a soundscape on if I need one, I may find it easier to fall asleep. Lying awake for long periods at night, that normally to me is stress and anxiety. You're probably highly stressed or you're highly anxious and there's something that you are thinking about or overthinking. And if that is you, then I would get you to just write everything down. So write down what you're thinking about, like kind of use ChatGPT for therapy, like go downstairs, like kind of maybe find a different environment to sleep in may help. But like if you're staying awake for long periods of time, that could be why. Could also be your caffeine intake. So you maybe increase your caffeine intake or had caffeine too late within the day. Could be like you have caffeine. To me, if I'm having caffeine past 3, I know it's a problem. So like I've kind of worked that out through trial and error. Some people it's way later. Like I know people at the gym can have a caffeinated drink at like 6 p.m. and not feel it. I know for me, past 3 p.m., I am awake all night. I know some people middays are cut off. So like find out what yours are, but caffeine could be also keeping you awake for long periods of time at night. If you wake up several times during the night, something that could help that is identifying why you're waking up. A lot of people wake up because they go to the toilet quite often throughout the night. You could be go to the toilet because you have a dry mouth, and your dry mouth is making you drink loads of water, which is making you need to go to the toilet. The thing that which could be causing your dry mouth is your inability to breathe through your nose, which means you have to breathe through your mouth. So I would get you to wear a nose strip. So I wear a nose strip every time I sleep. If you just do this with your nose, you'll be able to breathe a lot clearer. If I just breathe now, but then I do this, it's way clearer. Most of you will probably be able to do that, but that might mean a nose strip can help you, because then it opens up your airways, and it means that you can actually get air in. It means you breathe through your nose while you sleep, which means you don't get a dry mouth, which means you don't drink water, which means you don't need to get up throughout the night to have a pee. Ta-da! If you wake up early and unable to get back to sleep, pass. Don't know. Pass. Feel down or have a low mood. So this could be signs of problems, signs of sleep problems. Similar thing as I said earlier. Your mental health can affect your sleep, but your sleep can affect your mental health. So trying to set your environment up in a way which means you can wind down and can really put some effort and focus into finding a right sleep pattern could be really beneficial for you. If you have difficulty concentrating, again, that's probably due to sleep, or you're more irritable than usual, that could be due to sleep. Longer term sleep problems can affect your relationship, social life, and leave us feeling tired all of the time, eating more, and unable to do daily tasks. It's something I think we all dealt with. There are many reasons why we might not sleep well. Some people are naturally light sleepers, or it takes longer to get to sleep, while others may sleep badly because of anxiety, worry, or stressful events or other life changes. There are lots of things that can influence how well we sleep, such as our current physical and mental health, our upbringing, or what happens to us. However, bad sleep habits like or poor sleep hygiene, such as not relaxing or winding down behavior before bed, can cause sleep problems. More sleep problems. Is there anything there we can have a look at? Let's look at the NHS self-help guide to sleep. Let's see what it says. So here's our mental health. Bloody hell. I've got to try and find it. Sleeping problems. Leaflet. Oh wow, we're not going through this. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Let's have a look. So, what causes sleep problems? Let's have a look at this. And then we can have a look at their overcoming them. Effects of aging. Oh, let's come on. Let's just do this bit. This will be fun. Effects on aging. As mentioned, when people get older, they tend to sleep less deeply, and they may also sleep less well at night. Sometimes people will tend to often drop off during the day, which then reduces their need for sleep at night. In itself, it's not a problem, but often not sleeping at night becomes a great cause for worry, frustration, or concern. Medical reasons, disrupted sleep. If you need to go to the toilet at night, this could, about 60 to 70% of men aged over 65 get out of bed at least once a night. So not even just as you get older, but for a lot of people, again, it could be for what I said. If you're drinking a lot of water before you go to bed, it may be that reason. Many women report disturbed sleep around menopause, hot flushes and things like that. I know, like, body temperature in general is actually a really important one for sleep. Like, you want to be cool. A tip that I saw ages ago, which was having your legs and arms out but having your body covered, can regulate your temperature really well. But just making sure you got the right quilt on would be really good. Another common medical reason for poor sleep is pain. So if you're in pain, yep. Other health problems can also affect it, like breathing conditions, yep. Some medicines affect with it. Depression and low mood can affect sleep. Disturbed sleep is common symptoms of depression. It is usual for a depressed person to wake up early in the morning and unable to get back to sleep. Alternatively, have difficulty getting off sleep. So I suppose if I look back to any times that I've woke up super early, because I have quite a lot, I've gone to bed late and woke up super early over this year. It is all circumstantial problems that are affecting my mood, which make me wake up, and it's the only thing I can think about. And obviously the things I'm waking up and thinking about link back to my own self-talk about myself. So, like, this is why I'm such a big fan of, like, self-awareness and identifying what it is, because if I can identify the thing that's bothering me, I can then actually put some stops in place to change that. So I definitely have had that as I've gone through periods where I've had a low mood and things like that. Stress, worry, anxiety. When some are stressed and anxious, they may often find it hard to get off to sleep and their mind's worried. Any bereavements, obviously any emotional upset can obviously be a thing. And then sleeping arrangements. So if your bed room is over hot or over cold, a bed that is too hard or too soft. So, like, all of these things, and disturbed sleep routine. So on the next one, it should be overcoming your sleep problem. This is cool. So they have like different problems and then different solutions. This is quite a cool thing to know. Worrying about not getting enough sleep. Are you expecting too much sleep or worrying about not getting enough? So try find ways to relax, clear your mind. Yeah. Don't keep looking to see what time it is. Yep. So basically, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you check your phone, it's probably a bad thing to do. Like, don't check your phone as you wake up in the middle of the night to see, oh, what's the time? Have I got enough sleep? Like, if you're already worried about that, then it's not going to be good. Progressive muscle relaxation can also be helpful. This can be done gently tensing and relaxing the main muscle group in the body every 10 seconds, focusing on your attention on the relaxing feelings that spread through your body. There is many free recorders available. So yeah, some kind of like breathing. I think it's called, I don't know if it's box breathing, but it's 4 seconds in. So big inhale. So 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds wait, and then breathe back in again. That helps me loads. If I'm struggling to fall asleep, it's kind of like a mini meditation, and you focus on your breathing, and then your brain's not thinking about the other things, and it just calms you right down. You need to go to the toilet several times in the night. It could be a medical region, depends on what it is. Bladder training can be useful. Restricting caffeine intake and fluid intake late at night. Yep. Any pain, obviously, just like trying to sort the pain. It's very common for disturbed sleep, follow the bereavement, follow your difficulties by worrying about not sleeping. So yeah, you're always going to feel that. Anxiety, depression, and stress. So are you suffering from stress at the moment? Are you depressed or anxious? If so, then sleeping is probably affected, and it may be as soon as your head hits the pillow that your mind starts thinking overtime. So the following might help. If your mind starts to race, to use the relaxation techniques described earlier, such as muscle relaxation, or by focusing on a relaxing image or your breathing, by making your breath deeper and slower, yeah, it can decrease your heart rate. Yeah, cool. Which can in return reduces cortisol, one of the hormones released when we're anxious. Yeah, so like you could probably see, you can't see it, but my leg's shaking like crazy. Does it all the time. If I'm anxious, I need to calm down. You have like your parasympathetic state and your sympathetic state. So your parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. If you're anxious, you're probably in your sympathetic. So we need something to bring us into our parasympathetic, which is that rest and digest state. And breathing can help that. Jotting down a few things. So I've said that earlier can help. And maybe also set aside 30 minutes a day worry time. So this is basically set aside time for journaling. So set some time aside to basically just write down what you're worrying about. I think this is really helpful. Like you could use the same thread on ChatGPT to keep notes. You could put it in your phone. You could have a physical journal to sit and write. And like things like that do genuinely help. I think like identifying problems and then finding what solutions are possible for each of those problems is really important. It says it there, but it's how my brain works, which is like what I said earlier when we were in the Hormozy section of this stream, which was what are the big problems that I'm dealing with or ignoring that if I actually focused on and solved would fix or help how I am feeling currently, and then doing the solutions to fix those. Even if you've got hard conversations or things to have, I think it's really important. Wherever you find yourself worrying, remind yourself to save it till your next worry time. Like, kind of works, kind of doesn't. Like, sometimes it's just there. Sometimes you just need to get it out. But maybe if you set your journaling time close to your bedtime, you can get it all out before you go to sleep. Restless leg syndrome, we're going to kind of skip over that. And then we're going to have a look at athletic performance, so from sleep. So why is sleep important for athletes? For both athletes and non-athletes, sleep is essential for overall health and well-being. Everyone needs sleep in order to feel restored. This is from the sleepfoundation.org, so probably another good place to get our information from. For both athletes and non-athletes, sleep is essential for your overall health and well-being. Everyone needs sleep in order to feel restored. Can you guys see this enough? Should I zoom in? There we go. This can help your body to recover after physical exertion. So allowing your heart to rest and cells and tissues to repair. So that's what sleep helps. This can help your body to recover after physical exertion. Also allowing you to progress through the stages of sleep. The changes in your heart rate and breathing throughout the night promote cardiovascular health. It helps you recover from an illness. How sleep helps athletes' mental state. So sleep helps everyone retain and consolidate memories. When athletes learn or practice new skills, sleep helps them form memories and contributes to improved performance in the future. Without sleep, the pathways in the brain that allow you to learn and make memories can't be formed or maintained. So, if you are trying to achieve a goal and you aren't motivated to do it, what you need to do is kind of what we're doing here, which is list out all of the reasons why getting or doing a certain task will benefit your life. So me writing down, get 7 hours sleep. Why? Well, if I want to be a better athlete, it's going to help. If I want to be better at work, it's going to help. Da, 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 da. And you write all of these things down. If I want to be better in my emotional state, da, 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 da. It then highlights to you how important it is because of how much it's going to like positively affect your life. So like, do that, please. Sleep is also essential for cognitive processing. So loss of sleep is associated with a decline in cognitive function. This can have adverse effects on athletes whose sport requires high level of cognitive function, such as decision making and adaptive to new solutions. Also, just as exercise can help improve your mental health, sleep is also important for maintaining an athlete's mental health. Quality sleep is associated with improved overall mood. Yep. So how does sleep affect athletic performance? Both an increased quantity and quality of sleep helps athletes improve in many areas related to the demands of the sport. A Stanford study of men's basketball players who extended their sleep to 10 hours a night found several positive outcomes. There was some mad stat that like the guy who won the Tour de France like 5 years ago, the one thing that he had different was he had an extra hour of sleep compared to everyone else. Madness. Their shooting improved by at least 9% for both free throws and 3 points. The athletes also reported improved physical and mental well-being. Male and female swimmers who extended their sleep by up to 10 hours also saw many performances improved. Reaction times of diving blocks were faster, turn times were improved, and kick strokes increased. Times swimming a 15-meter sprint also improved. So additionally, these athletes experienced improved mood and decreased daytime sleepiness and fatigue. So this is great. Varsity tennis players, male and female, who increased their sleep to at least 9 hours, 9 hours a week, 9 hours a night. I want to know how much partying these varsity tennis players were doing if they're only sleeping 9 hours a week. I'm going to assume that means 9 hours a day. The accuracy of these players serves increased significantly from about 36 to nearly 42%. Other studies of female netball players and male soccer players have been demonstrated that sleep hygiene education helps athletes to increase their overall sleep time. So just get educated. So inhibited ability, a study of male sports athletes who were sleep deprived, so lack of sleep effects on athletes' performance. Decreased accuracy, quicker exhaustion, so they get tired quicker. Decreased reaction time, slower. Difficulty learning and making decisions, can't pick up skills as easily. Risk for injury goes up, risk for illness goes up. So illness is actually an interesting one, which is like if you're overtraining, and overtraining to some degree means you're doing too much training than your recovery allows, can cause illness. So if you are someone who is overtraining and training the same thing over and over again, that repeated fatigue that you are creating will create illness within your body. It means you'll get sicker quicker because your immune system will probably be down. Sleep different for athletes. Probably not. Sleep hygiene for athletes. So, creating an appropriate sleep environment. So, your space is dark and should be cool with little to no noise. So, this is something I didn't mention earlier, which is blackout blinds are an absolute game changer. Where I live, there's no real street lamps. So, like, blackout blinds for me have been an absolute just gem and lifesaver. Avoid alcohol and caffeine before bedtime. We spoke about stay away from electronics. So we spoke about have a wind down routine. We've spoken about get out of bed. If you can't fall asleep after 20 minutes of trying, so go and just move around. I always basically, if I can't get to sleep or my brain's active, I just turn my light on a little bit and start reading, and then I can kind of get to sleep. Avoid overthinking. So keep a constant training schedule. So that's about training. But I thought we said overthinking. You can tell where my brain is. Avoid overtraining. Keep a consistent training schedule so as to not overexert yourself. Avoid training and competitions too early or too late. So these can affect training and sleep quality. I'm kind of worried. I'm doing a Thursday night session. I'm worried that that's going to affect my sleep because it starts at 6:30, probably won't end till 8, and I'm worried that that's going to affect my sleep, but we'll see. And reduce stressors. Not only do mental stressors affect sleep quality, but they also impact performance overall. Jet lag and athletes, probably don't need to go into that. But yeah, so basically, it can affect everything. Staying hydrated is also going to be really important, and reducing like caffeine and alcohol intake is going to be really, really important. Not eating too close to bed can sometimes also really help if you struggle with sleep, and also being aware that having enough food is also going to be a good thing. So you don't want to be starving as you go to sleep. But yeah, that is basically everything that we know about sleep, or at least these 3 articles and my own silly knowledge. But hopefully that's helped you to understand, like, maybe create a little sleep routine of yourself. So if you're thinking or you're struggling with sleep, kind of identify, if you looked at those things, is your room dark and cold? Are you away from screens and electronics? And if you're not, do you have blue light blocking glasses? Do you get up in the night to use the toilet? That could be because you're drinking too much water throughout the night because you've got a dry mouth, which means that you could be breathing through your mouth, which means that you could use a nose strip to help you breathe a little bit better. You could be stressed, so do you have time within your day to journal and to jot things down? Do you have times to wind down by either meditating or by reading? Are you napping throughout the day? Because you may want to try to avoid napping, because even though you're trying to catch up on sleep, if you nap, that may affect your sleep later in the day. Or if you do nap, limit it to 20 minutes. Are you drinking alcohol? Because that can affect your sleep. And have you got high caffeine intake? Are you drinking caffeine too late at night, which could be keeping you up? These things are going to be probably the most important things. So have a check of those, and kind of hopefully that will help you when it comes to your sleep. So, gang, what a stream. We're going to go on to goals for the next week. So, new training plan for me means that we're going to basically just be pushing numbers on. So training is going to look a little bit different. My weekly schedule: Monday's my main lower body session day. Tuesday I do a run into a bike session. That's like a really big aerobic day for me. But the run is interval work, so trying to just get a little bit faster for that 12-minute run we've got at Efects, kind of building towards that. Wednesday's now my only rest day. But it's a big rest day. It's good for me. It means I can get loads of work done, which is really, really good. So it kind of ticks 2 birds with 1 stone there. Thursday's a big conditioning day, so I'll do a run in the morning, a nice steady run, and then just longer distance, trying to build up my volume, and then some kind of metcon on the evening. And then Friday, I have my other lower body day. I have an upper body day somewhere. Tuesday, I do a double day on a Tuesday. Friday is my like hypertrophy focused lower body day, and then I have Saturday is a pull session, Sunday is a push session. That is my training week at the moment. My plan is on a Saturday and Sunday to go in, train early doors, film my sessions, film some more content, so some longer form videos, and then have a sauna afterwards, and then come back and get cracking. It's great. I love these little self-care things that I'll be doing. But that's my thing. My goals for this week, I haven't really thought about it. Goals for this week. The goals for this week, for me, is to get good sleep. I tell you what, my goal for this week is my sleep, because it has been bad and I have been ignoring it. So I'm going to put a bit of focus in, and I'll check in next week. Let's put a note down. Sleep is the goal. Check in next week. Yeah. So, which means I need to go to bed an hour, which means I need to get away from these screens. We're every Sunday. So if you have enjoyed this stream, or you've enjoyed any parts of these clips, please come and join us every Sunday. We stream from probably around 7ish, normally between 7 and 9, come and join us. Come and get involved. Have this on as background noise. If you're watching the VOD, brilliant. Thank you. A like would go wonders.